This is the Between Part 1. I think I want to start by having all of us introduce ourselves. If when I call on you, you would please tell us your name or however you want to be referred, your pronouns, and anything else you'd like for us to know about you. I will start. My name is Jason. I use he, him. They is also fine. I am the creator of The Between, and I'm the co-host of a podcast called Fear of a Black Dragon. That's probably where most people will know me from. Let's go to Chaotic.
Oh, messed that.
Yep, you're still muted.
Okay, technical difficulties. Hi, I'm Chaotic. I use he, they, and I run a lot of The Between. Ran 50 sessions last year, so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you run it more than I do. So it's exciting. You get to play for once, right? Thank you so much. Darren.
Yes, my name is Darren. You can use masculine pronouns. I think I've played only a few sessions of The Between, so I'm excited to really dig in.
It would have been the alpha too, I think. I don't think have you played it since it's been out? Not with me.
Oh yeah, no, not with you. I played one session since it's been out, so yeah, okay. Not much.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here. Mags.
My name is Mags. I use they or she, and I started playing The Between in September on the trophy retreat, but have run it for a couple different groups since then, and so I'm excited to play it again.
Awesome. Yeah, that was a really fun series that we did at the retreat. It was really memorable. Sasha.
Hey, I'm Sasha, he, him. I've run The Between a couple of times, but I've never got a chance to play Story of the GM. So I'm really excited to do this.
Awesome. A lot of experience with The Between today, which is unusual for me. So that's exciting. I hope this session meets all of your expectations. I'm sure it will. I am nevertheless, even though everybody knows the game pretty well, I'm going to go through my normal procedure. This is mostly for people watching the video, but it might be a nice reminder for you all as well. So I'm going to start with CATS. CATS is an acronym that stands for Concept, Aim, Tone, and Subject Matter. I do this in order to establish some basic expectations for what the game is about and what we're going to be doing during this series. So the concept, The Between is a tabletop role-playing game about a group of mysterious monster hunters in Victorian-era London. These hunters learn about various monstrous threats in the city and conduct investigations in order to neutralize them. Over time, they become aware of the plans of a criminal mastermind who is pulling the strings behind the scenes. The hunters will eventually be forced to confront this criminal mastermind in order to save Queen and country. The Between is directly inspired by the TV show Penny Dreadful, but also takes inspiration from British horror classics, the works of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, pulp era media, things like The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and From Hell, and other things. The game's mechanics are based on Apocalypse World and Brindlewood Bay. You don't need to know anything about those two games before we play. The aim of the characters in the story is to keep London safe by investigating monstrous threats and learning how to stop them. Our aim as players is to learn more about these characters' mysterious pasts, as well as to paint a vivid picture of our version of Victorian-era London. The aim for today's session are to create and introduce our characters, learn the basics of how the game works by playing it, and then have a debrief at the end. The tone of The Between is dark, mysterious, and sensual. A little bit of levity or humor from time to time is okay, but we will always strive to return to that dark, brooding place the characters exist in. Subject matter. Murder, cannibalism, body horror, dark sexual themes, erotic sensuality, threats to animals and children, foul language, blasphemy, witchcraft, and defiling graves and corpses are all things that come up in this game. We'll talk about safety tools in a moment, but in the interest of setting expectations right now, you should know that this game deals with dark and intense subject matter. Let's talk about safety tools now. No game is more important than the people playing it. We're going to paint a dark, unsettling portrait of Victorian-era London, but we're going to do so in a way that respects everyone's boundaries of safety and consent. In order to do that, we'll be using 3 safety tools. the open door policy, the X card, and lines and veils. The open door policy is very simple. You can leave the game for any reason, and you don't have to explain yourself. Just let us know you have to go. No one here will ask you any questions about it. The X card, in the context of this video call, if something makes you feel uncomfortable in an unfun way, or just really, really clashes with your idea of where the story is headed, you can say X card or type it in the chat, and I will stop play and address whatever it is. It may be that I have to ask for some clarification on what specifically is being X carded, but I won't ask why. Once we make the change, we'll resume play. Finally, we're going to be using lines and veils. Lines are things that we're not going to have in the game at all. Veils are things that we're okay with being in the game, but we prefer not to role play them. So I think that the way we're going to do this is we have on the character keeper, which I'm going to share with you in a bit, a section called safety, and it has a whole section for lines and veils. So on the first break, if you'll just go through and mark your lines and veils, that would be great. In the interest of just showing an example of what I mean, I'm going to say mine now. So my lines, I just have one line. It's going to be sexual violence. We're not going to have sexual violence in the game. I will note here that one of the playbooks, the vessel, has a very strong implied sexual relationship with dark evil entities. That's a big part of the playbook, but I always assume that that is a consensual thing. It can be played in a non-consensual way, but we're not going to be doing that for this series. And then my veil, I think this time it's not going to be so much a veil as just an ask me first kind of thing, which is torture. I'm okay with torture being in the story generally. I just prefer not to role play it. But I think in this case, if you feel like you want to kind of go into explore torture themes, just ask, and I think we'll kind of see where we go there. So. And I think that's going to be it for that. So just on the break, or whenever you first get a chance, just mark your lines and veils on the safety tab, and that'll be great. So now let's do character creation. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and pause the video. Normally what I would do is I would talk about each of the different playbooks and what they're all about, but since everybody here on the call knows the playbooks, I'm not going to do that. And also, if anybody's watching this video, there's a good chance they've watched other videos I've done, in which case I've talked about it there. So let's pause the video now. Okay, we're back. Characters are created. Let's go ahead and introduce them. So going around the table, we're going to introduce our characters by name, look, and vice. You can also tell us what your playbook moves do if you wish. And I'll remind you at this point that you should avoid sharing any details about your character's backstory at this time. It's very important in this game that character backstory is not revealed until you are permitted to do so by the rules. So let's go ahead and do all of that. I'm going to start with, I'll just go in, well, let's get the factotum for now, and I'll go to the mother, Paloma Carrion. Darren, tell us about Dr. Carrion.
Yeah, so playing Paloma Carrion, she goes by feminine pronouns. She has close cropped hair, clean, unadorned hands, and a white shirt and fawn trousers, which I'm picturing as sort of like a fitted blouse with a little bit of a wide leg pant. You know, it's Victorian era, but I'm going to inject a little modern fashion into it. Yeah, that's her. She's working on something secret. And she has practiced with examining corpses with the beneath the skin move.
Nice. And what's your vice?
Oh yeah, vice. Cigarettes.
Cigarettes. Great. Thank you. Okay, let's go to Sasha and the undeniable. Tell us about your undeniable, Sasha.
Hey, my character is Robin Goodfellow. He is a puckish young man, bearing 18 to 19. He has a golden olive branch crown and flawless skin. His vice pranks, and my move is taketh away. When I destroy someone, I roll and things happen.
I love it. Thank you. Another thing I did over the holiday break was watch Dead Poets Society, which has which Robin Goodfellow and Puck, or I should say, 12th Night plays a major role.
Sure.
Okay. Or is that Midsummer Night's Dream? It's Midsummer Night's Dream. Right?
Midsummer Night's Dream.
Yeah. I don't know anything about Shakespeare. Okay, thank you. Let's go to Mags and the vessel.
So my vessel is named Helena Sand. And once I saw Sand as the last name, I was inspired by George Sand. And so in that sense, I have a few markers in my appearance of kind of impropriety, long, thick hair that I keep unbound, red painted lips, black velvet coat that has crimson trim, as well as boots with crimson laces. And because of that impropriety, my vice is sex with dark entities. That one will be fun to play at the table when I have to indulge in my vice.
Yeah, it'd be great. The vulnerable move where sex with dark entities is on the table is always interesting. It's always an interesting scene. Good.
And then I did choose to have a ritual chamber as well. So there is a room in the house that is only mine.
Very good. Thank you. And last and socially least, we go to Chaotic and the Factotum. Please tell us about the Factotum.
My factotum, Burnright. He works for the mother, Dr. Carrion. He has a walking stick with a duck head handle, a moss-colored tweed waistcoat, and a simple wool scarf. His vice is fine cigars, and he looks like he's always out of place no matter where he is.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, now we're going to go around again, and I'm going to read aloud the color text at the top of your playbook. After I'm done reading it, everyone else is going to name one object or piece of equipment that we think your hunter would have in their personal quarters at Hargrave House based on what we know about them so far. You can veto any idea you don't like or ask for a revision. You'll write down each item in the personal quarters section of the character keeper. So going back around to Dr. Carrion. Dr. Carrion, few understand the mysteries of human anatomy like you do. You are one of the most brilliant medical minds in London and could take your place as a lecturer at any number of esteemed academies. But you have different ideas, different plans. You are no longer interested in merely preserving life, but creating it. And so you'll do what you must to survive, tending to the sex workers dying of consumption, assisting Scotland Yard with grisly forensic inquiry, and creeping about in the dark with these new people, these hunters with whom you share a home. But always you are focused on the new life growing in your secret womb, your child, the one you hope will capture even the faintest reflection of the person you loved and lost. And now, Sasha, Mags, Chaotic, and myself get to say something that we think is in your personal quarters. If anybody has an idea, take it away.
Oh, Dr. Carrion, when she's not working and when she's not pursuing her own goals, she has a pet tarantula.
I'm going to give a little nod to the retreat game and say that you have a flesh terrarium.
Is that like stretched out skin in a jar?
So whatever you think it
Artfully
is, you decide.
Okay.
I like the idea that you have a hand that's sort of like Thing from the Addams Family, that you've performed medical experiments so it maintains its mobility and can do some limited activities.
Animated hand, yes.
I think you have a really gnarly bone saw.
Is there any other kind? That's what I want to know. Fantastic. Thank you so much, everyone. And let's continue on with Mr. Goodfellow. Mr. Goodfellow, you have always been the most beautiful person in the room. Your looks have opened doors for you for as long as you can remember, all the money and material things anyone could want laid at your feet. Artists have found inspiration in the brightness of your eyes, the delicate curve of your cheekbones, the plump softness of your lips. One such artistic work, a masterwork, rises above them all, for it captures the essence of you. It is quite simply more you than you. Lately, people sacrifice everything to be near you, to please you, and, if they're lucky, to touch you. But what to do when you get bored with being one of the gods? What do we suppose Mr. Goodfellow has in his personal quarters at Hargrave House?
I'm going to give you a very, very odd item. You have business cards for a place called the King's Court.
Business cards for a place called the King's Court. All right, I like it.
That's one of those fun things where it's like, what does that mean? I don't know. Figure it out. I'm gonna say I'd run this game so much, and I just say the same things always, but it's okay. I'm gonna say that you have a really fabulous wardrobe, meaning your clothes, not a closet.
I think you have stolen love letters. None of them are addressed to you.
I think you have tidbits that many admirers have left in your quarters, but the most notable, I think, is a set of undergarments you claim belonged to Cleopatra herself.
Fabulous.
All right, I like it.
All right. Let's move on to Ms. Sand. For as long as you can remember, dark entities have been near. They lurk just inside your peripheral vision, just at the mirror's edge. When you close your eyes, you can actually feel them, their cold breath, their oily touch, an occasional feverish embrace. They want to be inside you. They want to rub up against your guts and deposit their power. Others are drawn to you as well, those who would use you to master these dark things in order to serve their own agenda. Some of these interlopers, these usurpers, can be of use, such as the hunters with whom you share a home. Others, like the coven, are best avoided. In either case, you are no one's object, tool, or weapon. You are no mere bystander. Your fate is yours to shape. What do we suppose is in Miss Sand's personal quarters?
A human-sized doll.
Like a mannequin or a doll?
It's not a mannequin. Like, you know the doll from Bloodborne? Sort of like that.
Yeah, that's great.
I want to say a large, dusty tome, but all the pages are blank, at least to us.
I think you have a dull ritual knife.
I'm going to say you have a door off its hinges. And just a door off its hinges. So. And let's go to Burnright. You had a life before you entered the service of Dr. Carrion, but the details of that life are unimportant. all that matters now is her and Hargrave House, where you will grow ancient and die, if you're lucky. More likely, your employer's colleagues, these hunters, will be the end of you, overturning things that should remain hidden and goading on terrors that dwell in dark places. You'll do your best to help them, of course, to keep them alive, because without them, what are you, really? What I suppose is in Burnright's very small closet of the servants' quarters at Hargrave House.
I think because of who Burnright's employer is, he has a collection of dead men's clothes.
I'm going to say you have access to very, very strong chemicals for cleaning, possibly other purposes.
If you have a pair of very fine hair clippers, like scissors for hair. Clippers, right? I don't know, hair scissors.
I want to
Tools.
say you have a well-worn shovel.
Fantastic. So now we're going to take our little break. When we get back, we'll start the day phase and I'll introduce the first threat. And as well on the break, please don't forget, if you haven't done so already, to mark the lines and veils, the safety tab on the character keeper. And I will see you all back in 5 minutes. Okay, so before we begin, I'll ask you all just to check in on the lines and veils, on the safety tab before we start. And I also want to tell you that even though this is a game that's set in a historical time period, we aren't going to dwell on historical accuracy. We'll do our best to represent the technology and culture of the era, but we're going to get some things wrong every now and then, and that's okay. I'd also like to point out that during this time period, people with marginalized identities would likely have been treated very poorly in society. We're going to ignore that part of history. In the world of the between, things like race, nationality, gender, ethnicity, sexuality, disability, and neurodivergence are not a social barrier. So before we start, are there any other questions or any questions at all? Okay. Then let's begin. We start with the day phase. If you want to follow along on the Hunter tab on the far left, there's a little thing called the phase tracker. I'm turning it on now. We have 2 steps in the day phase. I'll present a new threat, and then we'll have scenes. This will be a slightly shorter day phase than I would normally run, just because I want to complete the whole cycle today. So it'll be kind of an abbreviated day phase. Next time, the day phase will be quite a bit more luxurious in length. So, Hargrave House is an old Gothic revival style building. It stands out from its neighbors on Belgrave Square, which are done in the more conventional classical style. Hargrave House is also different because it's not just a residence, but a place of work, dark work. And some more of that dark work has just landed on the doorstep. So, our first threat is, as it always is in my games, the St. James's Street Ghost. A back issue of the Illustrated Police News, a tabloid notorious for carrying salacious, blood-curdling tales of dubious provenance, has a story about a young housekeeper, Jenny Hess, who was found dead, apparently from shock, in her employer's St. James's Street townhouse some months ago. So this is old. The story claims the townhouse is haunted and that it was almost certainly the appearance of a ghost that caused the young maid to die of fright. After a cursory inquiry, you learn the precise address of this haunting, 18 St. James's Street, and the name of the family that lives there. They're called the Beals. I'm going to direct this question to our vessel, Ms. Sand. Ms. Sand, most tales of hauntings are complete nonsense, especially those carried by the Illustrated Police News. But Hargrave House has some experience with ghosts, and a particular detail in this story confirms that this is a legitimate haunting. What is it?
Maid's nails grew quite rapidly after death, so that the floorboards were gouged by them when they went to remove the body. I've seen that in other cases of extreme possession.
Thank you, that's great. So this is a legitimate haunting and therefore of interest to Hargrave House. The way this game works is we have questions and opportunities. Questions are the essential mysteries that you're trying to solve in the game. And opportunities are different things. They're usually just a way of resolving the threat. Now at this time, your characters all know each other and you have indeed worked on cases before. This is why you know about hauntings and things. And Hargrave House has existed long before you, okay? So we sort of start the story sort of in the middle with you all, right? We have, and so you know certain things and you understand certain approaches, and indeed you have already started aspects of the investigation, which is why you know, for example, that this is a ghost. We have two questions and opportunities for this particular threat. The first is, which part of the house is the ghost attached to? And if you want to follow along with this, it's on the threats tab, by the way. Which part of the house is the ghost attached to? This is a complexity 4 question, and it unlocks a brand new move called Old Bones. The second question is, how can we get this ghost to pass on to the next world? It's a complexity 6, and it allows you to resolve the threat by performing a quieting ritual. So you can actually like not even bother with the ghost. You could just like learn about the ghost for your own ends and leave it there, tormenting the Beals if you wish. Or you can help the Beals out, or both. So let's talk about the mask, the Janus Mask. So I don't have to tell all of you, but this game has an element called the Janus Mask. And Janus Mask is a way that you get to essentially, mechanically, it allows you to alter a die roll, right? So if you get a result you don't care for, after I narrate the outcome, you can say nope, and then mark the Janus Mask to get a better result, and we change it. You always have access to 2 aspects of the Janus Mask on your character sheet, which is called, one is the Mask of the Past and one is the Mask of the Future. I have another aspect of the Janus Mask on the threat as well, called the Mask of the Unquiet, which is also available. It can be used once by one hunter. So with all that said, let's talk about the day phase. Normally in the day phase, this is when you sort of have scenes together to help allay the conditions you've accrued by having little intimate scenes with one another. It's when you can continue the investigation of the various threats. Perhaps you want to show us some aspect of your life in London. Maybe you want to focus on answering one of your dawn questions, right? You can do all kinds of things. In this initial day phase, there's really only one kind of thing to do, which is to start the investigation. But it's up to you, though. You might be interested in pursuing a dawn question as well, or any combination of them. So I'm going to go around the table and ask what everyone might be interested in doing here at the beginning, and then we'll figure out what the scenes look like after that. I'm going to start with, in reverse order, Ms. Sand, what do you think?
I would like to go to 18 St. James Street and talk to Mrs. Beale or whoever I can find there about what's been going on.
Sounds good to me. Mr. Goodfellow.
Is this an upper class neighborhood or a lower class neighborhood?
The St. James's Street is a solidly middle class neighborhood. It's lots of professional people, accountants and lawyers and that sort of thing.
All right. I assume there's some sort of tavern or drinking hole in the vicinity.
Yeah, there's almost always some such thing in the vicinity in this town. So,
Yeah, I'd like to go there and ask some questions.
sounds good. And let's go to Dr. Carrion.
I want to examine the corpse.
So the corpse is actually long in the ground because the story
Oh.
was from several months ago. Yeah.
Well, don't threaten me with a good time.
Not impossible though. If you want to go dig it up, I'm okay with that.
No, I might just go with Helena to the house then.
Okay, sounds good. And
if you'll have me, Helena.
what about you, Burnright?
I would keep close to Dr. Carrion, but I think I would actually go asking around the neighborhood because typically with hauntings, I presume, most of the time families try to keep it to themselves and keep quiet about this thing. But for neighbors, they can be a little bit nosy, busybodies.
No, I like it. Yeah, that's good. So let's do the scenes. We're going to start with Mr. Goodfellow. Mr. Goodfellow, I think there's a pub nearby in the neighborhood. It is just on the edge of the neighborhood, maybe just barely in the neighborhood. And this pub is going to be called the Brass Tack. And I'm curious, first of all, Mr. Goodfellow, let's just get a sense of what you look like. Like as you walk in, what do we see?
Well, I think the pub, it's sort of, a little bit of a dive bar, dimly lit, few patrons kind of huddled in groups. And the minute Robin walks in, it's like a beam of sunlight. This is a youngish guy, not even 20 years old, auburn hair. He's wearing a golden crown. And he just walks in, everyone looks at him, and he just very flamboyantly goes to the bar and says, "Around for everybody, my good fellow."
That's very eye-catching, obviously. Everyone will sort of pause and they'll even clear a space for you at the bar. And the barman will say, "That's some very fancy headgear you have there, sir."
Oh, well, my father always says, make a night of it.
At 11 o'clock in the morning, but okay, sure. Says, an early start, huh?
It's never too early to start.
He will, I'm curious about this crown. Is it like a band, a coronet, a tiara? What are we talking about here?
Well, it was, I imagine it's like a laurel wreath sort of thing, but gold wreath.
Like a Roman sort of thing, or yeah, okay. I love it. He pours you a drink, and while he's getting your drink, what are you doing?
I think I look at sort of the patrons that side of me, and I just go like, "Oh wow, that's such a nice watch you have there. Oh, where'd you get that?" Like making conversation with people in an overly familiar manner.
Yeah, that's good. I think you hear across the bar, you see there's a man who's sort of holding forth in front of a group of people who are surrounding him. And he says, yes. Well, I'm actually thinking about, charging an entrance fee, maybe 1 or 2 days out of the week. We sell tickets. Everybody can come in and see the St. James's Street ghost. I think that has quite a ring to it. He's like, Alice, of course, is beside herself. She doesn't like all this, but she doesn't have the same sort of entrepreneurial mind that I do. And he's kind of going on and on. This sounds like it might be Mr. Beale, but we'll come back to that. A few blocks down at 18 St. James's Street, I think the hired carriage, the cab, lets you all out. And Ms. Sand, what's your approach? What do you do here?
So I think I'm aware of various mediums and snake oil salespeople who will go to door to door and offer solutions for problems such as these. And so I think just the fineness of my garments makes it quite clear that I am not one of them, but I will borrow their approach for a bit, and stride confidently up to the front door and knock, with as much mystery and imperiousness in my demeanor as I can muster up.
I like it. So there's a little gate. You go through the gate to the front garden, up the steps, and there's a bell that you can ring. And Dr. Carrion, are you there on the stoop with Miss Sand?
Yeah, I'll be behind Helena.
Very good. Burnright, I will tell you that since you said you were kind of holding back a little bit, you can see a pair of hands and a pair of eyes peering through the hedge next door. And then when this person realizes you can see them, they sort of like retreat back into the hedge. What do you do?
Oh, I'm going to go around the hedge, like not like enter that person's yard, but take a look of like, who is this person snooping?
Yeah, you go around and you see a woman a little older. She is wearing a too tight bodice, I would say, streaks of gray in her hair, but otherwise a very she seems like she's solidly middle class in terms of her dress. And she says, "Oh, sorry, I wasn't spying on what was going on next door, of course. Well, I mean, I was just
admiring the hedges."
Well, yes. I mean, it's certainly no business of mine what goes on next door at the Beals' house, but what sort of neighbor would I be? What sort of community member would I be if I didn't stay abreast of things that go on around here?
Of course. I myself am trying to assist your neighbors in any way possible, but sometimes it can be a bit difficult, in which they try to keep things private and to save face a little, but it's the strength of the community that can actually solve this problem.
She says, well, I may know some things, and if it's to help them, of course I'd be happy to perhaps tell you what I know over a spot of tea.
Of course.
And she'll take you in, but the whole time she's like looking over the hedge to see like what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, what is going on is that Ms. Sand and Dr. Carrion, you hear quite a bit of conversation going on the other side of the door, but no one answering the door. The conversation is two women, and one of the women says, "Yes, Irma, I know it's not your job to answer the door. I understand that, but I mean, don't you think it's a little unseemly for the lady of the house to be answering her own door? And you are a servant after all." And there's just like there's a sort of like not in my job description argument going on at this point, and no one's answering the door. Dr. Carrion, what do you do?
I think I just speak up and try to like yell through the door. I don't know what I say though. What does someone say? Excuse me, this is I'm a doctor here with my associate. We've come to tend to the family needs.
And the door opens up and she says, "Oh," the woman on the other side of it is wearing a simple tartan dress, and she looks a little exhausted. She says, "Oh, the doctor. Well, that's wonderful. I didn't think you were going to be by until tomorrow, but since you're here now, that's wonderful. Please come in, come in. The baby is well, I don't know what's going on, but perhaps you could take a look and tell us." And she's ushering you in. Um, I was expecting Dr. Smithson, though. Are you a colleague of his?
Oh, yes, we work in the same ward. He got caught up, a late night call at the hospital. Doctor schedules are impossible.
And she looks at you, Ms. Sand, and says, "Aye, well, I've certainly never seen a nurse dressed like you."
Oh, the doctor here is a friend of mine, and I am drawn towards anywhere where there's energy quite as dark as that in your house. I would be happy to see if I can't consult the spirits here and perhaps bring peace to your little family.
She says, "Oh, well, that's certainly a interesting turn of events. All sorts of services awaiting me at my door. I suppose you are not here for baby Mary Alice after all, then."
I'm not, but the doctor maybe.
And she just
I am
raises
more
her hands and
interested.
says, "Please come in." Ever since, and she closes the door, ever since Harold sold that story to that horrible rag, I've been getting visits like this fairly regularly. You are not the first people to come up to my doorstep with a story and secretly want to know about our ghost. And she shuts the door. "But if you really are a doctor, ma'am, my poor Mary Alice is behaving a little strangely."
Of course, Helena may be intrigued by a ghost, but please, the services that we can offer are holistic. That's what I'm looking for. I was going to say wholesome. We have wholesome services. Anyway, please show me to your daughter.
She'll take you upstairs, and that leaves you just sort of downstairs by yourself, Miss Sand. And I'm going to cut away for a moment back to Mr. Goodfellow. Mr. Goodfellow, you overhear this man holding forth. He's pretty obviously connected to whatever's going on over here, but I will just ask you, what do you do?
Well, I guess kind of looking at that, kind of ask the barman, say, "Who's that gentleman over there?"
"Oh, that's Harold Beale. Do you know him?"
Oh, well, no, of him might be more accurate. He's the one with the ghost house, am I correct?
Yes, that's what we're all led to believe. I really wish there was a ghost, and I wish that ghost would help him pay his tab. That'd be something.
Well, it seems like he expects to be in some money soon.
Oh, he's always got a scheme of some sort, that Harold Beale.
I understand some poor girl died there, did she not?
I think we're definitely pushing into information move territory now. So let's take a look at the moves. There's a tab there on the thing. The information move says, when you search for a clue, conduct research, or otherwise gather information, describe how you're doing so and roll with an appropriate ability. It sounds like you're using presence because you're just sort of using your personality to sort of charm him a bit. So go ahead and take that roll.
All right.
2d6 plus presence.
Okay, I got an 8.
8. On a 7 to 9, there's a complication, either with the clue itself or a complication you encounter while searching. I'll tell you what the complication is. Let's start with the clue, though. He says, yes, well, it's that poor girl, Jenny Hess. She used to come by here sometimes after her work was done for the day, and she told me all sorts of stories. And the stories, well, they got darker and darker, and then eventually she stopped turning up. I don't know if it was ghosts or something else, but he says, well, funny thing. He says, kind of clams up a little bit. Like he feels like what he's about to tell you is very foolish and he's thinking better of it. But how do you get him to sort of like go ahead and say it after all?
I think I touch his hand and I say, "Come now, no secrets between friends." And I give him a really beaming smile.
He says, well, he turns and you see sitting over, there's like towards the sort of like behind the bar, there's a little shelf above like where the till would be. You see sitting on this shelf a wax doll, like a child's doll. He says, Ginny Hess gave me that doll to give to my daughter. She couldn't wait to give it to her. And I took it, of course, because, well, it's a lovely thing. But then, hey, maybe you know someone in your life who would like such a doll.
I definitely know someone who might make something of it, yes.
Oh, he goes and says, well, my daughter, she's grown weary of it. Here, you take it.
Oh, thank you. What a lovely thing.
He gives you this wax doll, which you can put in your personal quarters, but you're also taking a condition called the wax doll.
Ooh.
How does it make you feel when you hold it?
I think it just feels really icky to the touch, you know? Like, I think it might, despite being made of wax, there's something weirdly lifelike about it.
This is your clue. I'm going to note this on the clues part of the thread here. The clue is the doll. And I'm going to cut away. So, Burnright, you are in the home of this woman, the neighbor. Her name is Constance Head.
Constant.
And Ms. Head, as she's talking to you in her little salon, and she's, you know, her butler brings the tea, or her manservant brings the tea down, and she keeps like peering out the window next door. She's very intrigued what's going on with like people showing up at the Beals house. And she says, yes, strange things over there. They're well, you know, that family, they I mean, it's not really for me to say, and it's really none of my business, but let's just say they live a little bit above their means. I was a little surprised, frankly, when they moved onto this street. But, well, how perfectly snobbish of me.
People will do anything to get above their station.
Yes, isn't it completely tacky? It's so. Well,
So there are some cases in life where that's perfectly reasonable, but one must be prepared for it. Otherwise, it could send you spiraling downwards. I would hate to see if some sort of awful rumor got out about them to the wrong person.
oh yes, we mustn't do that. We mustn't. We have to be careful the things we say, the words we speak.
Yes, but behind closed doors, well,
I like it. You can go ahead and make the information move. I think it's with
presence probably.
presence. It's presence, yeah.
Oh, that is an 8.
We'll come back to that in a moment. Ms. Sand, you are left by yourself. Let me give you the layout. So the ground floor, there are essentially 2 large rooms. There's like a sitting room, and then on the other side, there's like a dining room. There's some steps towards the rear that go down to the servants' quarters and kitchen. And then there are the steps that go up where Dr. Carrion and Mrs. Beale went upstairs, presumably to bedrooms and things. So what do you do?
So I think I'm interested in waiting in the sitting room. It seems like the place that I would be expected to wait. And so I will step into the sitting room, but I am reaching out with my sensitivity and my darker senses, just to see what's up with the vibes of this place, for a very modern phrasing.
I like it. It's good. I'm sure they had vibes in the Victorian era.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the sitting room. Like as I noted, this is the first of 2 main rooms on the ground floor. There's a small library and enough seating for a family and a few visitors. We have a paint a scene question here. Paint a scene is a question that whenever we do it, everybody gets to speak. It helps us explore an idea related to the location. And our paint the scene question here is, what in this front room indicates that the Beals are living a little bit above their station, as noted by Constance Head? What do we think?
There's a bunch of books here, and I think that there is some evidence that most of them were bought by the yard. These books are for appearance and not for reading.
I love it. There's a line from a movie I love called Anti-Mame, where this snobbish young girl goes, "Books are awfully decorative, don't you think?" It's that kind of thing.
Things are, there really isn't a whole lot of dust here. It's as though everything's been moved recently. So they've just moved into the neighborhood. This isn't some sort of generational family wealth. This is, we're trying to get above our own station.
I think that there's a small fireplace, but it's like clean, totally clean, unused.
Nice. And Sasha, any thoughts?
I think they have a piece of artwork that's very clearly fake.
Fabulous. Ms. Sand, go ahead and make the information move with sensitivity as you sort of like get in tune with the place. Oh, you're muted, Max.
I rolled a 6.
That's
So,
6.
not so good.
We shall come back to that. Dr. Carrion, Mrs. Beale takes you upstairs to the second floor, where there are some rooms and things, but then she takes you up one more flight of stairs that is a smaller, tighter little set of stairs that goes up to the attic. She says, "Now I know you're going to think it's horrible that we keep the baby in the attic, but, well, there was just, Harold insisted on having an office in the other room, and little Roger, of course, wasn't going to give up his room for the baby, and so, well, it's nice actually, whenever Ginny was alive, she could help with the baby in the middle of the night, and we didn't have to really be bothered by the crying and stuff too much. Oh, I do regret that we have not been able to get anyone in ever since Ginny had her accident. It's that dreadful story, Harold's ridiculous story about the ghost. We can barely keep any help. Nobody even wants to even apply for the job. Nobody wants to work in the haunted townhouse. Here we are. You go up into the attic, and it has been transformed into a nursery. It's decorated in soft pastel colors, and there's a window, a big round window that lets in daylight kind of pouring in. Here's a question. This is just for you, Dr. Carrion. As you step into the nursery, how do you know the ghost is with you right now?
Think of something good but easily unexplained. I think there's like a sudden, I walk through like a cold spot, like a calm of very frigid air.
I like it. Good. I think I'm going to just check in briefly with Mr. Goodfellow, but then we'll kind of wrap up Mr. Goodfellow's scene. Mr. Goodfellow, you have this doll. It has a quality that's, we'll say, unnerving for now. And I'm curious what you do after you're done receiving this gift from the barman.
I think I keep an eye on Mr. Beale. I wait till he's sort of kind of on his own, maybe going for the bathroom or something. I just want to intercept him. It's like, oh,
Yeah,
I
that's
have
fine.
Mr. Beale. I've heard such wonderful things about your haunted house.
He says, "Oh, yes. Well, I well, I don't want to give away too much, but I think there's a real opportunity there. In this age, people are more and more interested in the spiritual realm, the supernatural. It's the kind of thing that well, give the people what they want. That's what I say. And if I'm sitting on a haunted gold mine, well, so be it."
Oh, I agree. As a matter of fact, I myself am in show business.
Oh yes,
Yes,
I
good
can tell
fellow.
by your dress you must be an actor or something.
Oh, it's been many years since I've taken the stage, but I have an interest in theater. I have certain connections, and I think some of my associates would be very interested in what you have to offer, Mr. Beale.
Oh my. Well, yes. I perhaps you should come by my home this evening, and we can talk about how you and your colleagues, I suppose, can be a benefit to my new venture.
Oh, nothing would give me greater pleasure, sir. I look forward to it.
Indeed. And he shakes your hand and says, "Oh, I didn't get your name. I'm Harold Beale."
Good fellow. Robin Goodfellow.
Yes, you are indeed a good fellow. And his hand lingers just a little too long, and then let you be on your way. Let's go to Burnright. Burnright, you're going to get your clue, but it comes at a price, which is Constance says, "So, Mr. Burnright, are you well, I didn't notice a ring on your finger."
Unfortunately, no, not currently.
Oh, what a shame. Someone as handsome and put together as you. Maybe well, I have tickets to the opera tonight. Maybe you'd like to accompany me.
Unfortunately, ma'am, I've already have plans. I wish for everything in the world that I could just cancel them, but unfortunately, it's not true in this case.
Oh, what a shame. What a shame. Well, I do hope you won't be a stranger, Mr. Burnright. And I'm going to give you a condition that is you are marked by Constance Head. And she gives you a clue as well. She says, well, and she kind of will, I'm not going to RP it, I'm just going to tell you. In the middle of the, this little impromptu social call, she tells you that sometimes she looks out the window and one of the second-story rooms looks like it's on fire. She can see the curtains going up in flames. and she runs out to try to get help, and it's gone. That's your clue. And let's cut back over to Ms. Sand. Ms. Sand, you are in this room. You're attuning to the vibes. What kind of feeling do you get in the house?
I think it feels like there's no air here. There's an oppressive presence, and it's hard to draw a full breath.
Let's lean into that. You feel a tightening around your neck, in fact. Fingers grasping you from behind, tightening around your windpipe. You can see that there are no visible fingers around your throat, but you can always see in your peripheral vision the dark things. And this is another dark thing. Is it connected to this house? Probably. Is it the ghost? Probably. But who could say for sure? But whatever it is, it's displeased by your presence here, just trying to choke you out. What do you do?
I think I want to take the dull ritual knife and lash out at it, mostly to try and get the hands from around my neck, but also because we came here nominally to dispel this ghost. So
Indeed. Let's do the day move. Let's read the day move. It says, when you do something risky or face something you fear, this is kind of a combination of both, name what you're afraid will happen if you fail or lose your nerve right now.
So this spirit already has quite a hold on my throat. And so I have kind of a twofold fear. The short one is that I might die. The second one is that my other dark presences that shadow me may join in the fight.
Interesting. So go ahead and roll. If you're going to mark that knife, if you mark it in your personal quarters, you get to roll 3 dice and take the 2 highest. And I think it's going to be with, it has to be with sensitivity. So.
That's a 12. So 4 and a 6 plus my 2 sensitivity.
That's great. That's great. You do what you intended, or you hold steady, and I'll tell you some extra benefit you receive as well. I'm going to let you basically just get the ghost off your case here. Go ahead and describe what that looks like.
Yeah. So I think the ritual knife kind of pierces the shape of the ghost. And it's sort of like I popped a balloon full of smoke. The smoke dissipates throughout the room and then whooshes out the door and to somewhere else in the house. And so you can tell that the presence is not here, but is still somewhere. And I spend a few seconds catching my breath. I think I'm leaning on the bookshelf. Just kind of, usually my altercations are not that immediately violent with dark entities. So I think I'm taken aback.
And here's your bonus. I'm gonna give you a clue. It's a bonus. A book falls off the shelf, quite seemingly on its own. It is a novel, a tawdry novel that you might be familiar with, about a woman who murders her philandering husband. That's your clue. And we'll wrap up this day phase with Dr. Carrion. You don't know what's going on downstairs, Dr. Carrion, but at the precise moment that Ms. Sand stabs the spectral entity and causes it to flee, little baby Mary Alice, who was up until this point just standing up in her crib, babbling like babies do. At the precise moment that Ms. Sand strikes the ghost with the ritual knife, the baby looks up at you. Its eyes have an understanding of who you are, of what the situation is, of what you intend. And the baby smiles and puts its hand out and beckons you. This is not something babies do, but this baby is. What do you
So
do?
weird. Yeah, but let's approach the baby.
I want the day move.
Yeah.
Since you're facing something you fear, what are you afraid is going to happen if you lose your nerve right now?
Hmm. Somehow the baby's gonna like address me, like tell me something, right? I don't know.
That's great. I love it. Go ahead and roll with composure for now.
Is there an easy dice roller to get to?
I don't have one handy, but
Of course.
if you just want to pull one up somewhere, it's
Yeah.
fine. Or if you have dice, you can just roll regular dice too.
There's somewhere around here. I don't know.
If you just roll like 2d6 in Google, it'll automatically roll it.
Oh, that's right. Google does do that. And what am I adding?
Your composure score.
Sure. What is my composure? One. Okay, I got an 8.
8. I'm going to give you a condition called unnerved, but you otherwise are able to proceed forward toward the baby, Mary Alice. As you walk closer, as she beckons you, her face stretches into a rictus grin, just a large, wide, gummy smile. And she seems like she wants to whisper something in your ear. Behind you, you can hear Alice Beale say, "Oh, I think she likes you. She doesn't take to people so easily normally."
Would you mind coming with me? If I'm examining a child, I prefer to have a parent, the guardian, someone responsible nearby help me understand what the child's
She says,
feelings.
I don't think that's necessary. I trust you, doctor. I better go check on the meal, on tea." And she goes and leaves you there with the baby. Baby is stretching up, wants to whisper something to you. What do you do?
I mean, I think I have to just like lean in and find out and examine this baby. I don't think it's going to tell me anything. This is fine. Just a weird baby doing weird things.
You go in, it does whisper something to you, and I'm not going to say what it says. You get to keep that to yourself for now. But if you incorporate whatever the baby did say to you in a future scene, I'll give you a bonus on your die roll. If you could just note it for now. And that will conclude the day phase. We're going to move on to the dusk. So the first thing to do for the dusk is to resolve any playbook moves that need to be resolved, but it doesn't look like we have any. So instead, I will ask a paint a scene question about Hargrave House. one of the things we do during the dusk phase is we explore Hargrave House, the physical space of Hargrave House. It's assumed that your characters are always communicating with each other, and the dusk phase is when you're getting together to share information. Unless you want to specifically hold something back, it's assumed that you are talking to the other hunters. And it's also assumed that whatever room in Hargrave House we're about to explore is where you're having this conversation right before you head out for the night, right before you do what you're going to do in the night phase. So let's talk about the room we're going to do. We're going to start with the trophy room. The question is, there were hunters living in Hargrave House before you. Trophies from their encounters with the supernatural can be found in the trophy room. Describe one.
I think there's a golden harp, very beautiful, very ornate, but it's in a big glass case, and there's a big like sign taped to it: "Do not touch, do not play."
Nice.
I think there is a set of sharpened metal dentures. And there's just a little bit of blood staining on them.
There's a two-headed stag, or I don't know, a two-headed stag. The heads are mounted, right? With like interweaving antlers.
Nice.
I'm I'm going to say that there is another glass case, and inside of it there is a beautiful porcelain mask, but also fluttering around in the case are living butterflies.
Nice. Thank you, everyone. The next thing to do, everyone says what their hunter's going to be doing during the night phase. It doesn't mean you're going to get to do it because, as I like to say, the day belongs to you, but the night belongs to me. But I at least want to hear what your thoughts are. And there's no discussion here. But you do get to hear what everyone says. And then if you want to change what you're going to do, you can change it afterwards. But I'm going to start with Mr. Goodfellow. What are you going to do tonight?
Well, I have an appointment with George Beale, but I'd also like to show the wax doll to Miss Sand and see what her expert opinion is.
I think we can get both those scenes in. That should work pretty well. It's Harold Beale, by the way.
Okay.
And that's okay. And let's go to Dr. Carrion. What are you doing?
I'm gonna go dig up Jenny's body. Jenny's the victim, right? Yeah.
Nice, good. I love it. A little bit of grave robbing, never hurt, especially in the between. What about you, Burn, right?
Well, I have the shovel, so I guess I'm digging up a body tonight. Dr. Carry on, please.
Sounds good. Sounds good. And Miss Sand.
I think I am going to spend some time in my ritual chamber and see what I can do.
Maybe with a wax doll. We'll see. I love it. So if there's no revisions, that sounds like a good plan for everyone. We don't have any Janus Mask prompts that need resolved, and so I will introduce the unseen. I know you all know what it is, but for people watching the video, the unseen is a scene that takes place at the same time as what your hunters are doing on the same night. It has no direct connection to the story, but it gives us a chance to explore our version of London, because one of the things we're trying to do is paint a picture of our dark London, right? And so it's an opportunity to do that. Now, it's not directly connected to the story, but it can be thematically connected to the story. And your job as players is to make connections between the unseen and the hunter scenes. Those connections can be thematic, they can be visual, they can be something, just some kind of sensory connection. something about an idea. It's really pretty loose. But whenever you make one of these connections, it's called an echo in the night, and you get an experience point at the end when you do it. As an example of what I mean here, if in the unseen we see a sex worker dying of consumption, and someone describes the sex worker coughing blood into a bowl, and we see this vibrant red blood in the bowl, perhaps in the hunter scene, someone describes a bowl with vibrant red flowers in it. That would be an echo in the night between the two, right? It can be kind of suggestive like that, or it can be very direct too, like maybe candlelight figures prominently in the unseen, and so you describe candlelight happening in the hunter scene in a significant way. It can also go both ways. So you can get your echo in the night by describing something in the unseen that happened in the hunter scene, right? So I'm going to introduce the unseen, and we'll take a break so you can think about them, but let me introduce it first. And I think we're going to do I usually don't try to think about it too much. I just kind of pick randomly, but I think I want to start with Brown's Hotel. This is if you want to switch over to the tab that says London at Night, the Unseen, it's the third row down, second one over. And it says, none of the 117 rooms at Brown's Hotel on Albemarle Street are the same, though they each have housed some of the most fashionable people you'll find in London or anywhere. A concierge, Teddy Miller, delights in spying on the hotel's posh clientele. There's something for everyone here. I'm going to give the first one to, the first prompt is going to be for Mags. Second prompt is going to be for Chaotic. The third prompt is going to be for Darren. And the fourth prompt is going to be for Sasha. We'll take a 5-minute break, think about your prompts, and we'll come back and do the night phase. Brown's Hotel. Mags. Teddy puts his ear up against the door of a wealthy young bachelor. What does he hear that makes him desperately want the life of that young bachelor?
The bachelor is angrily berating a servant who had the audacity to serve drinks in the pewter when it was obvious that the crystal would have been more appropriate.
I guess my follow-up question is, does Teddy want to be the bachelor or the servant in this scenario?
I think he wants to be the servant. Just, you know, to be in a more intimate position of confidence from such a wealthy young bachelor, I think would be up Teddy's alley.
Yes. A wealthy young bachelor who treats you poorly, and interesting. I think we should start with Mr. Goodfellow and Ms. Sand. I'm going to frame up the scene, just sort of two of you in just a sitting room or something. Mr. Goodfellow, I think you wanted to talk to Ms. Sand about the doll, but I'll let you all just have the scene. Take it away, role play.
Well, yes, I dropped by a nice little watering hole this afternoon. Lovely establishment, very friendly bartender. We got to talking about this, that, and the other thing, and he mentioned that the dead maid, what was her name? Hess, yes, that was it. Gave his daughter this very nice little wax doll, and I bring it out of like my pocket, wrapped up in a handkerchief, and I'm just like, yes, well, he gave it to me. People give things to me very frequently, but it's a little bit weird. And you being expert on such macabre subjects, I thought it would be very helpful to our investigation if you were to do the things you do to it.
Oh, the things I do. I see. So first you tell me that you were off having drinks when the rest of us were doing our jobs. And now you want to give me this weird doll because it being weird made you think of me? Okay, well, I'll do the things I do to it. Absolutely.
How wonderful.
Good.
Do you want to join me perhaps? I'd love to do the things I do to this doll to you as well. I mean, I'm sure that you could assist me in my nightly endeavors.
Well, I would simply love to. However, I have a prior appointment with Mr. Beale. I had a very nice chat with him while you were, breaking into his home under false pretenses.
There was nothing false about my pretenses in his home. And I will say that I think Mrs. Beale might object to you having a confrontation with Mr. Beale by yourself.
Oh, simply business, 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 business.
I've seen your business before, yes.
Well, you can't deny that I get results.
Well, I'm just saying that maybe not those results aren't as useful for everyone in the equation.
Well, so long as we get what we desire, surely that is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, selfishness definitely ranks up there in terms of importance. Enjoy your date.
Enjoy your weird stuff in your creepy room.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Good.
I
That feels
will.
like the scene. Let's cut over to Dr. Carrion and Burnright. Dr. Carrion, finding where Ginny Hess is buried is no trouble at all because you actually work with Scotland Yard to help pay the bills some nights. And so getting the information about where she might have been buried is no trouble. It's a sort of commoner's graveyard where the bodies are practically stacked atop one another, or they're at least packed in very tightly. It's nighttime, and it's London, so there are people around on the street, like not immediately where you're at, but sort of not too far off. You can certainly hear people around. Let's just have the scene with the two of you there in the graveyard. You don't have permission to dig up Ginny's body.
I imagine Dr. Carrion is the lookout, as it were, and I'm the one that's digging up the body. Just shovel after shovel full of dirt.
I'm standing a bit of ways off, my clean hands are like grasping them, keeping them from any of the dirt. Bernard, where were you today? I suppose we didn't need your assistance in the house, but you're always around.
Well, I would figure that I would have gotten a little bit underfoot with so many people in that tiny house. Mrs. Sand is very capable with the occult nature of things. And I figured that he would want a wider net that is spread. So I went over to the neighbors asking around if they have seen anything unusual about the house.
Very sharp, Bernright. That's why I love to have you around. There was nothing to find in that house, though. Who knows what Elena may have sussed out, but all I found was a precocious baby in a cold room.
Love it. I think at this point I would let's have a die roll. Let's have the night move. Sounds like you're trying to dig up this body without being noticed, I'm assuming here, Burnright.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you want to mark the shovel, you can take it at advantage. But first tell me, what are you afraid is going to happen if you fail here?
It's less a bit about being discovered and more or less falling into the hole I'm digging and being, like you said, there was multiple bodies being stacked on top of one another. And I would probably, even if I were to succeed, I would have to start taking out different bodies. So I have to get in there deep.
And I have to say how it's worse than that. It's worse than that because I think some of the spectral energy that killed Jenny is left over inside the grave.
Yeah.
If you're okay with all that, go ahead and roll with, I actually think it's vitality, the rare vitality roll. Take it away.
All right. Oh no. With everything, that is a 6.
Oh no. We shall come back to this in a moment. In fact, let's go back to Brown's Hotel. Chaotic.
Yeah.
Teddy rummages through the personal effects of an actress staying at the hotel while she's out. What does he find that makes him desire her or desire to be her?
There's a nice, like, you would assume, like, if you want anything valuable, you go to a woman's vanity, but Teddy is not very interested in that. She left in a hurry and her suitcase was left open, just with things strewn about, clothes piled on top of one another, and like he's just looking through her all these various outfits, and he pulls out this very beautiful but very plain looking, like, yellow sundress of a sort, and like he stands in front of the mirror and he like he doesn't put it on, but like he holds it up to himself and like he has like holds it and it like he just sort of twirls with it. He wants to be her.
Thank you. So, Ms. Sand, tell us about your ritual. What are you doing here in the ritual room?
So my ritual room is what used to be a conservatory at the back of the house. So large glass windows, and but I've modified it a little bit so that there's an artificial pond and then stone work tables under which there are grates with lots of coals in them. And on top of those work tables are cloches, crystal cloches that you can't see what's in, but they're moving and very vividly colored. And after some consideration and kind of holding a wax doll up to a couple of them, I pick one up and you see a brilliantly yellow frog inside. So I take the frog and I hold it next to the doll, and I can see that they're about the same size. So I take the doll over to my work table in the center of the room, and I lay the doll down, and then using like taxidermist pins, I pin the frog so that it's spread eagle on top of the doll in a similar posture, and I do a small incision down the middle of the frog and stick a rolled up page of that book inside this brilliantly yellow frog. And what I am trying to do right now is I think it's a combination. I'm lashing out at the ghost. So this is another strike against the ghost that I have been fighting with all day. But also in particular, I would like to mark with poison or yellow anything that is obviously associated with a cheating husband. And so I'm just trying to essentially make my future investigation a little bit easier. Since I'm in the ritual room, I think this is Rites of Salt and Smoke, but with +3 for my additional sensitivity.
Yeah, because you get bonus sensitivity in the ritual room, right? Yeah, I love it. Go for it.
That's a 7 after all that.
So you will get an effect, but you have to take a complication as well. So it sounds like the effect that you've described is, well, what is the specific effect here? Do you think it kind of falls in as far as your list goes?
I think it's sort of like trapping a specific person or creature, but instead
Okay.
I just want to mark them.
No, I like it. What's the complication?
I think this is just camp and fun, and so I'd be willing to take it a different direction.
Okay.
But I think it would be funny if the frog mutates, and now I
Okay.
have a frog monster in my ritual room.
Okay, I like it. I'm into it. I mean, that would be a unwanted, problematic side effect, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's good. Good. I like it. We'll come back and get the sort of the visuals more of the ritual in a bit, but let's cut over to Mr. Goodfellow. Mr. Goodfellow, you're in the hansom cab by yourself, horse trotting along as you make your way to 18 St. James's Street. And as you're sitting there, at approximately the same time as Ms. Sand is doing her ritual, you start to feel a tiny hand gently caressing the back of your hand, Mr. Goodfellow.
I look over to see where the sensation's coming from.
You see the doll sitting next to you in the hansom cab, gently stroking the back of your hand.
Well, hello, my love. I didn't notice you there.
And the doll raises the little hand up and puts a finger to its lips as if to say, shh. And then it's gone. How do you feel?
Pretty, that same sensation when I first got the doll sort of creeps up again, just, a wrongness rippling over me, goosebumps and all that. I guess I check my pocket to see if it's like on my person somewhere.
Take the unnerved condition, please. And the cab stops. And it's stopped for a while, and you're nowhere near where you're supposed to be. And the cab driver looks back and says, "Terribly sorry, sir. There's a carriage in the road, refuses to move. Hurry up then, come on, come on. I've got a passenger here." And you can see ahead that there's this large, fancy looking dark carriage with all the brass trimmings being pulled by several horses. And it's just stopped in the middle of the intersection. Like you can't proceed. And he gets up to go like have it out with the driver and passenger of that carriage. What are you doing right now?
I think I look out, and does this carriage have any distinguishing marks, like initials or something of that nature that could, like a coat of arms?
No, but the handsome cab driver comes back a few moments after, and he says, "Are you, by chance, sir, do you have the last name Goodfellow?"
Oh, yes, indeed.
"The passenger of that carriage wishes to speak to you."
Ah, yes, well, shan't keep them waiting. Do be a dear and wait here for me, please.
Well, I'm not going anywhere, I suppose. And we'll cut away from there. Back at the graveyard. While the digging is going on, what are you doing, Dr. Carrion?
I'm thinking of, I want to go ahead and use this baby secrets, although I don't have like a role to prime it with. So I think that I am, oh, well, I'm supposed to be looking at, like, what am I doing here? I think I'm like walking around the grave as Burnright is digging. And
This might be a good chance to point out that you all get experience points at the end if you answer yes to your dawn questions. And so it might be a chance to just soliloquy a little bit to get a dawn question done, or, whatever. That's what I would do, just as an option.
that's right. Put a soliloquy in there. Oh no, that's a good idea. But yeah, I still want to walk around the grave as Burnright's digging, nominally doing my little lookout duties. I don't know. I guess maybe I'm just investigating the scene. I'm waiting for the corpse to see the corpse.
I think as you are doing that, you see a woman who is tentatively like walking around the graveyard, kind of looking around, and she sees you and she waves and she approaches. She says, "I'm very sorry. I thought I saw a friend that I met earlier today, a Mr. Burnright, but do you know him? I thought I saw him come this way." Mr. Burnright's down in the hole, by the way. So,
no, I'm sorry. I feel you are mistaken. I don't know anyone named Burnright. We're just doing some unfortunate, I forget the name of the job.
she says,
Grave.
"I saw you earlier today. Weren't you over at the Beals house?"
No, you must have me mistaken.
"Oh, yes, I suppose I must." Meanwhile, Burnright, you hear Constance. Do you just like let Dr. Carrion handle this, or what?
I don't know what's more interesting, to have me pop up at this exact moment or me to like, because I did have that failed roll earlier, to like have something supernatural happen in the hole right now as this is happening.
If you do nothing, I'll proceed to pace with what's going on in the hole, but otherwise, yeah.
Yeah, let's put a little bit of pressure on Dr. Carrion and have me pop up at this moment as being caught in the lie.
Very good. Yeah, I love it. That's great. Constance sees you and her eyes go wide. She says, "Mr. Burnright, what are you doing? And you, I knew I recognized you. Quite a night for duplicity and lies."
I think I just have to knock her out.
You just attack her.
I think so, yeah.
There's no roll
Club.
here. Do you just like club her or what? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, I'm thinking I have my bone saw with me. I'm not gonna saw her right off, but yeah, I'll hit her with it.
Good. That's going to be the night move. What are you afraid is going to happen if you fail?
I think I'm just afraid it's just like I'm not strong enough. She's gonna make a scene, not be knocked out.
It's worse than that. She will alert a Bobby who will come and probably do some arrests or some other bad trouble. Go ahead and roll with vitality. And you can roll 3 dice if you mark the bone saw.
Yeah. Oh my god, no. 10. Ooh. Ooh. Oh wait. 7. I think it's a 7 because my vitality is 0.
We'll come back to this. Brown's Hotel. Darren, Teddy draws a hot bath for a pair of good-looking young men staying in the same room. In what ways does Teddy help bring the erotic subtext of the scene to the fore?
Teddy insists on undressing them as well in front of one another.
Very good. So, Ms. Sand, let's have the ritual. Give us the scene. Give us the color. What's happening here? The outcome. Including that frog.
Yeah. I think the first thing that happens is the frog's stomach, where I made the incision to insert the rolled up page, heals over and over the page. And then I think there's kind of a bubbling and melting from the wax doll under the frog as it wraps over and around the frog, causing the frog to begin growing. Although the final product is we have this kind of melting, bubbling pool of flesh is larger than either half, right? So it's not as big as the frog and doll, but rather it becomes this like stretched out monstrosity on the table that is still sort of plastic and malleable, even as it begins reaching for me where I'm standing. And I think it's readily apparent that I don't keep tools for dealing with this around. So a lot of my tools are for things that are still frog-sized. So I have small blades and small pins, but I don't have, an axe or anything that I could easily use. So I find myself reaching for a pair of shears that I keep nearby to prune, because I have flowers in this conservatory as well. So just to prune flowers and pick blooms. And while this monstrosity is still mostly restrained by the pins, I start trying to cut the page out from the center of the monstrosity where it healed over and is still visible as like a rolled up little scroll of page in the middle.
Interesting. So you did get your effect, which is you are now able to like see when people are like cheating on their spouses, basically, or their lovers.
Yeah. And specifically, I think people in 18 St. James Street, like I don't want it to just be
just a general. Yeah. Good. I like it. That's great. No, that'll be really good. Just make a note on your sheet for the future.
If Harold Beale lights up tomorrow, I'm gonna have some words to say to Mr.
Indeed. This monstrosity, though, I mean, is it a danger right now? Like, could you just kill it, or?
I think it is already a danger, and I think I have two options, which is I can either leave the room and shut the door and let it come to itself and exit the house, and maybe it will just be one of those things that lives in the Thames. Or if I stay in the room, I'm going to have to fight it.
It's probably the night move regardless.
Yes.
We'll come back to that, though. Mr. Goodfellow. So you're going to talk to this person in the carriage, yes?
Yeah. I hop out of the hansom, walk on up, and knock politely on the door of the carriage.
The little curtain of the passenger compartment slides open, and Inside is a woman, an older Black woman. She is wearing, you can tell from the gas lamps light kind of around. You can see that she's wearing this very beautiful blue gown. And she has on her neck a choker, a necklace with a large glimmering sapphire. The sapphire, this is the sort of kind of jewels that would be found like in the Tower of London, right? Like it's very, very, very expensive. And it glimmers in the light. And she smiles, her hair, sort of done up very beautifully. She clearly has money. She says, "Mr. Goodfellow, I thought that was you. I hope you don't think I'm being impertinent by cutting off your passage."
Do I know this woman?
You do not.
Ah, madame, you seem to have me at a disadvantage. You know me, and yet I do not know you.
Yes, I do have you at a disadvantage, don't I? Mr. Goodfellow, I just wanted to take a closer look. I've heard stories of your legendary beauty, and you will be happy to know that the stories can't even possibly compare to the real thing.
Tell me something I don't know.
She smiles. I have a feeling you and I are going to get to know each other very well in the near future, Mr. Goodfellow. Very well indeed.
Yes, well, I wish I could say I shared the same pleasure. Madam, wonderful meeting you. Beautiful attire, beautiful carriage, but if you think that gives you the right to block the way of an honest man such as myself, I must say it does not.
It does
Now,
not indeed. My man will drive on in a moment. I am very happy we had this chance to encounter one another.
indeed, Madame.
She smiles, gives you no answer. Enjoy the rest of your evening, Mr. Goodfellow. And she pulls the curtain back across the window, and the carriage proceeds apace.
I think I watch it kind of disappear in the distance, like gaslight, before turning back and remounting the hansom.
Indeed, indeed. Back at the graveyard. So here's the scene. You were standing on the pine box that Jenny Hess's body is in. Burnright. Dr. Carrion has just assaulted Constance's head and hit her upside the head with the bone saw. Constance falls forward into the hole with you, Burnright. Falls atop you. You both land really hard onto the pine box. The force and weight smashes you through the pine box. So the three of you, Jenny's remains, Constance's head, and you are down there in the box. Oh, I'm sorry. The four of you are down in the box. You look over. Jenny's skull is right here. Constance's face is right here, quite unconscious. And looking down, you can see that Jenny's skeletal hands are clutching that wax doll, though it's a moldering, withered version of it. I'm giving you the condition, the wax doll as well, Burnright. But what do you do right now?
I'm going to, well, push push Miss Head off of me, and then I'm going to climb out of the hole, like up onto like my hands and knees in front of uh the good doctor. Just like because I'm just so very uncomfortable by the situation right now. I just need to catch my breath for a moment.
Just keep having the scene, Doctor.
Bernard, a little tact will get you a long way. Now we have even more work to do tonight.
I didn't think she would follow me.
What did you do to her?
We had tea.
Ugh. Only tea? I've never seen someone so smitten over tea.
Well, lots of things can make a person smitten, but I suppose tea is not the first thing I would think of. I'm just gazing at you.
Wipe that look off your face. We might as well make the best of it. I thought examining a body might be all we do, but perhaps we'll make the best of all the bodies we have here. I'm angling to get some parts for my child.
I mean, if you want to do beneath the skin on Ginny's body, you get to ask that question as well as get a clue. And even though her body is mostly just skeletal, there might be something salvageable for the child.
Oh, I'll salvage something off of
Or Constance.
Our interloper.
Or murder Constance. That's also an option. I love it. We'll come back to that though. Let's wrap up at Brown's Hotel. Sasha, Teddy returns to his tiny flat in East London. What do we see in Teddy's apartment that shows how he tries to incorporate bits of glamour into his dull gray life?
I think he has a shelf with these little figurines, dolls, each bearing, some tokens he's taken from guests at the hotel. He adds one, maybe like a handkerchief he took from one of the young men he undressed and wraps it around it. For another, maybe like a pearl or a bow from the yellow dress, and maybe some sort of token from a servant who was yelled at. And he just kind of sits in a chair, puts on a record on the gramophone, just listens to it, and just closes his eyes.
Thank you. Ms. Sand, this creature is thrashing about. It is about to unmoor itself from the pins. What do you do?
So upon reflection, I think I actually feel a little bit of maternalistic pride. So I think I am going to just try to quietly leave the room and see what it gets up to while I am looking the other way.
I love it. Go ahead and add this creature to your personal quarters, even though it's not literally in your personal quarters. It's close enough. And we'll see what it gets up to in the future. So as long as you have the door locked, though, it'll be in the ritual room. So and then just an evening cup of tea after that, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Mr. Goodfellow. The handsome cab drops you off in front of 18 St. James's Street. When you step out of the cab, the front gate to the garden opens of its own accord. The house is illuminated Every window is glowing. It's as if every candle, every lantern, every gas light was lit in the house. And the front door to the house opens, seemingly of its own accord. Do you accept this invitation?
Of course.
You walk up, and inside, floating in the middle of the foyer, which has a very high ceiling, is Harold Beale. He is floating there. Unclear what's suspending him in the air. His arms are spread out, and his head is tipped back, and his mouth is wide open, as if an invisible string coming out of his mouth is dangling him in the air. What do you do?
I call out, I have business with this man. Release him at once.
Mr. Beale falls. It is a precipitous drop. I will give you a moment to react. Otherwise, you can just let him fall.
I think I let him fall.
It's more than he falls. It's like he's violently pushed down.
Okay.
And as he lands, it's like a cat always like spins and lands on its feet. Harold Beale's always spin and land on their head. And you can hear the crunching of his spinal column. And that will conclude your night phase. Let's go to the grave, the body, Constance's head, and also a condition for you, Mr. Goodfellow, marked by the St. James's Street ghost. Please take that.
That would bring me to 3. Would I have to spend a mask to undo that?
No, only if you get to 4 do you have to mark a mask.
Gotcha.
3, you're okay. I want to go back to the grave. It sounds like you're doing beneath the skin on Ginny or Constance, maybe? What do we think here?
I'm Jenny.
Very good. According to the move, it says you get to ask me 2 questions from your list. What do you ask?
Well, how'd they die?
And I will answer with a clue.
Well, yeah, how'd they die, and what would an untrained eye overlook?
And I have to answer with clues in both cases. Give me a moment. You can see what are definitely, even though like it's very withered and decayed, you can see what appears to be like around the neck area, what appears to be like pressure that was placed on the neck. Perhaps like the bones are a little out of place or a little snapped even. So she was strangled to death, and that's a clue. And your other question was, what would an untrained eye miss? All of Ginny Hess's bones that you can see have little cracks in them, and these cracks are in strange spiral patterns. That's your other clue. Are you going to try to take something from Constance's head?
I mean, I think I have to, right? I think
Who's
Burnright,
going to kill her?
Burnright, do you know about the child?
I'm fine with either way.
Yeah.
I
think
think it
that's
probably
up to
makes
you.
sense that you do, because this is a big ask, right?
Yeah.
Um, hmm. Bernard, I know this is the worst of what I ask you, but I can't pass up this opportunity to borrow from Constance.
It just depends on what you mean to borrow.
Smorgasbord, I got so many things unchecked.
If you borrow the wrong thing, well, we have to deal with the body afterwards.
Already in the grave, Bernard.
Mm. That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, I just gotta grab something. So maybe like, I don't have any specific demands. It's gonna sound so cruel. I'm so sorry for this, but well, Bernright, carve off whatever you liked best.
Uh, I am no. I'm not a doctor. That's your business. But I think I'll take Constance Head's eyes out of her sockets. I'll gingerly carry them to you and offer them as like a gift.
Very good. You can unmark marked by Constance Head, or you can erase that. Burn right. And we will end the night phase there. Now to the beautiful dawn, the breaking dawn. We would collect rewards if a threat was resolved, but it was not. So let's go ahead and answer dawn questions. Everyone has the first two questions the same. Did the hunters answer a question or resolve a threat? The answer is no on both of those. However, you might have gotten an echo in the night. So let's check in with echoes in the night. Burnright, did you get an echo in the night?
I think so, because I was technically stacked between two bodies.
Fair enough. Go ahead and take your experience point there. It's ghoulish, but I like it. Dr. Carrion, did you have an echo in the night?
No, I don't think so.
Mr. Goodfellow, did you have an echo in the? Oh, I know you did, Mr. Goodfellow. I remembered yours.
The dolls.
The dolls, yeah. And Ms. Sand?
I feel like I did with the crystal to the crystal or the yellow to the yellow.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, take your XP. Very good. Let's go back to Burnright. Burnright, did you subtly express sexual desire for your employer? Yes, you did. The lingering gaze, I think, was probably that. And did you demonstrate obsequious behavior toward your employer in front of others? The in front of others is the tricky part there.
Not in front of others, because Constance's head was dead at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. If that scene had gone a little differently, it might have, but okay. Dr. Carrion, did you dismiss the possibility of a supernatural explanation despite everything you've experienced?
Yeah, a little bit. The baby's room. But
oh yeah, I think so. I think that just your general sort of like demeanor there was
Mm.
good in the way you were sort of like approaching that. Did you secretly engage in romantic or emotional behavior at odds with your aloof logical exterior?
No, I don't think so.
Let's go to Mr. Goodfellow. Did you express a clear preference for the beautiful over the mundane?
I don't think so.
Did you let someone touch you and then make them pay a price for doing so?
I think I got the worst of the deal with the wax doll, but I think it counts.
yeah, I'll take it, because you did give the wax doll away, and
Yeah.
the wax doll, quote unquote, paid a price. Ms. Sand, did you perform a ritual? Yes. Did you counsel someone using your supernatural affinities as the basis for that advice?
No, I offered to, but I think Mrs. Beale went upstairs before we got much of that.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so you get the other one though. All right. XP is doled out. Let's go to, you can mark new Dawn questions at this point if you wish. The new elective ones anyway. Oh, memory is the servant. I don't remember how that works, even though I wrote this game. Give me a moment. During the Dawn phase, you may tell the keeper you are claiming a memento, which can be any object from the scene in the recently concluded night phase you would have reasonably been able to acquire. What is it?
Well, because I imagine Constance's head was out and about and she carries her own personal belongings. I think I have like one of her like handkerchiefs that I took from the body as well.
Nice. And do you keep it or give it away?
I think I would give it to Dr. Carry-On as a way to like to hold the eyeballs.
Very good. And so by giving it away, you get to mark XP, and Dr. Carry-On, you get to put Constance Head's handkerchief in your personal quarters. And then resolve any Janus Mask prompts. We don't have any Janus Mask prompts to resolve, but Dr. Carry-On, you do have to give us a little flashback when you're holding the eyes in your hand. You have to tell us, you have to narrate a brief, pleasant memory of the person you lost that's triggered by holding the eyes.
Say it again.
You have to narrate a brief, pleasant memory of the person
right.
that you lost,
Right,
that the
right.
eyes remind you of.
Mm. I think there was a game I used to play with this person where we would stare into each other's eyes, but not like a blinking game. The goal was to like stare long enough to figure out like what they were saying. So it was kind of that sort of guessing game.
Nice. And that concludes the dawn and concludes our session. Let's do our debrief, which is stars and wishes. Stars are things that you enjoyed about the session, either bits of role play, something about the game, something about a scene, something about something one of your fellow players did. And wishes are things that you hope to see next time. I'm going to start with my own wishes because I'm going to just cut everyone off at the pass and say that the way this game goes, the TikTok of it is, now that you all have a bunch of conditions piled up, in the second day phase, we get to have those intimate, vulnerable scenes between the characters to get those conditions cleared. So you will have lots of intimate scenes with each other, and it's going to be great, and I'm very excited to see it. And it's always a session 2 kind of thing. So those are my wishes. But stars, I'll hold my stars for a moment. Somebody else wants to go.
It's less of a actual role play thing and wouldn't actually be picked up by the recording because no one mentioned it, but a star for sort of how particularly the character creations kind of went. Basically, in terms of looking at the sheet currently, the mother and my factotum, we both have the same stats, and our vices are fine cigars and the other is cigarettes. So it's just like a very neat parallel. I'm very excited to sort of explore a little bit more.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I kind of want to give Sasha a star for leaning in with me to the conflict in character, because I just wanted to have a bit of that this session, and so thank you for going along with it.
Yeah, same for me. I really like that sort of in character bickering.
Other stars I have, I really enjoyed. Well, a session one of the Between is always interesting because you know so much about the characters, but you know so little about them as well, right? Like it's a very interesting dichotomy. And the trick for you as a player is to sort of find a lane quickly so that you can be doing something in the game, right? Until you get a chance to know the characters better. And so I thought everyone did a really good job of like slotting into their lane. I think it was very wise to go straight to the investigation of the mystery. I thought that was really a smart move because it kind of gets things rolling. And yeah, I enjoyed specific things. I really enjoyed Goodfellows' entrance into the bar, and just that whole scene is so interesting to me. And I could visualize it, and I could visualize all the people in the bar kind of being like, who is this person? You know, that was great. The ritual scene was really, really fun. And the graveyard scene was great too. Just that whole like I don't know, it was kind of funny, but it was also very ghoulish and grim. Yeah, so I was very, very into that as well. Oh, and the baby, and the scene with the baby. Just Dr. Paloma star for like walking toward the baby, right? You know, because I think you could have maybe not, you know, but I think it was good that you did. And I've already said my wishes, so.
Yeah, I think the star I'm thinking of is all the like little details that people brought into their scenes were really good. It felt like very vivid as people were describing things and interacting and talking. That was really nice. The ritual was super cool to hear talk through. The like echo there with the yellow frog was very subtle. I really like that. Yeah, I think that's it for me. And wishes, I don't know. I don't think I have any wishes yet. I'm excited to see like how day phase goes next week, things like that. So.
Yeah, I love the session 2 day phase. It's my like, it's like such a fun time because it's like our first chance to really get to see these characters like being with each other, you know, which is great.
I'm excited to see our attention get a little bit divided. So I think the introduction of another threat, I'm really looking forward to. And I also like how, in spite of how a lot of us have meta knowledge of this game and have played this threat before, I felt like that kind of added to it in a way because we were able to bring things in really fun ways. Like I really liked the introduction of Constance peering through the hedge. And, yeah.
I've never had Constance die so early. That was entertaining.
Not true.
Well, that's actually not true. You're right. The Undeniable killed Constance in her house in our game, right? Yeah, that's okay. This was the second. This is the second fastest Constance death.
Speed run Constance death.
Exactly, right, exactly. Murdering Constance, done quick. Okay, good. Any other stars and wishes?
I have to, it's a little bit of a wish of like, oh, the scene could have gone this way, but it didn't. Like, I imagine like as I was climbing out the hole, that's like the mother could have blamed me for her failings of like, oh, now we have this problem to deal with.
Now I had to kill her.
It's your fault instead, and like you could have gotten Echo that way. And I was like, oh yeah, I should have gotten my hands on knees in this situation. And you're like, let's be a little bit nice. So I was like, okay, I'm just trying to figure out like who this particular mother is, because I've had a couple different mothers in my game, and like one was a very sweet and telling story, and the other was a very cool and calculated serial killer that even rivaled like Sally in the amount of like innocent people that they murdered. So like, I'm just trying to figure it out. Where do you lie?
It's a good question. It's especially important question for the factotum. I love it. Any other stars or wishes? Okay, then we shall wrap with a little stinger scene, if you don't mind. The camera of our movie, or our prestige TV show, I suppose, as it swoops away from London, we're seeing London at night from overhead. We're moving beyond London, past the stink, past the smoke, out into the country. And we zoom in on an enormous country home, a manor. And we find ourselves inside this home, inside a sitting room, grand sitting room, certainly much more grand than the Beals and even more grand than the one in Hargrave House. This room is dominated on one wall by an enormous map of London. The map is so big that to reach the top of it, you have to get on a ladder. And in front of the map, there is a tall wingback chair. There's a person sitting in a chair, pondering the map. We see an ancient and possibly old butler come into the room. He's got a silver tray in his hands. He's got a drink on the tray, some port perhaps. And he's just very slowly, very, very slowly tottering over to the chair. He finally reaches it. He gives the drink to the person sitting in the chair. And we can see now that the person sitting in the chair is that woman in the blue dress. We see her sapphire gem glittering at her neck. She takes a sip of her drink and she stands up. And then she approaches the map. And she takes 2 brass pins, large, and she puts one of the pins in 18 St. James's Street or thereabouts. And she takes the other pin and she sticks it in Hargrave House. And then she continues to enjoy her drink and smiles. That will conclude our session right on time. Boy, I'm good. And let's go ahead and stop the recording.